Go ahead. Yes.
Thank you, Karoline.
Thank you. Thank you,
In addition
Karoline.
to the ballroom and the rose garden
I'm going
patio,
into the back. Sorry. Go ahead.
in addition to the ballroom and the rose garden patio, is the president looking at any other renovations or significant kind of projects here at the White House?
Not to my knowledge, no. But he's a builder at heart, clearly, and so his heart and his mind is always churning about how to improve things here on the White House grounds. But at this moment in time, of course, the ballroom is really the president's main priority.
That's exactly what happened when Trump started fantasizing about Karoline Leavitt's lips aboard Air Force One. And Jimmy Kimmel, he absolutely destroyed them both with the most savage takedown we've seen yet. Trump was flying high after his Middle East trip when reporters asked him about his 27-year-old press secretary's performance. Normal presidents would talk about competence, communication skills, maybe policy knowledge, but Trump, he went straight to her appearance, saying that face and those lips, they move like a machine gun, right?
Getting wrapped like immediately. Is that right? How's Karoline doing? Is she doing good? Should Karoline be replaced?
No. That's up to you, sir.
It'll never happen.
Nobody wants to.
I say she does a great job.
Thank you.
Do you want to elaborate on
And those lips, they look like a machine gun, right?
Jimmy Kimmel's
wanna
reaction
elaborate on
captured
this?
what every decent person was thinking. Does the White House have HR? He's openly musing about this woman's lips that are like a machine gun. I feel like if I live to be 1,000 years old, I won't ever see anything as weird as this man running a country. But the lips comment was just the beginning of this twisted story.
Donald Trump actually said our new military will bring back new focus on fitness. I love the idea that Trump is lecturing these guys on fitness. I mean, if that isn't the fondue pot calling the kettle fat, I don't know what is. Listen up, generals. I want to make something very clear. The Pillsbury Dope president wants you to do Pilates. The only push-ups Donald Trump does are from the side of an ice cream truck. If you get so fat you start breaking escalators, you are unfit to serve in the military.
See, Jimmy Kimmel had already been roasting Karoline Leavitt for weeks, and for good reason. When she took the podium as the youngest press secretary in history, Kimmel noticed something that everybody else was too polite to mention. She's married to Nicholas Ricco, a real estate developer who's 32 years older than her. That's not a typo, 32 years.
And I don't know if you guys caught the CNN town hall last night with AOC and Bernie Sanders, but I sure did. And it's very clear that they are now the leaders of the Democrat Party. And the Democrats are in complete disarray. And we hope a few moderate Democrats with some common sense will step up to the plate and do the right thing to vote to open the federal government.
Kimmel delivered the perfect one-liner that exposed Trump's entire hiring philosophy. She's 27 years old, the youngest press secretary ever. She's married to a much older real estate magnate, which, in that case, you're hired. Think about that for a second. Trump, who's 24 years older than Melania, hired a press secretary who's in the exact same situation. It's like he's building an administration based on his own creepy preferences.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt slammed the letter. She said it was fake news to perpetuate the Democrat Epstein hoax. And the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, this guy's a beauty. He's in a tough spot because for years, the wingnuts have been trying to dig up dirt on these deep state pedophiles and their powerful friends. And now they're trying to bury all that information.
White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt slammed the letter. She said it was fake news to perpetuate the Democrat Epstein hoax. And the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, these guys a beauty. He's in a tough spot because for years the wingnuts have been trying to dig up dirt on these deep state pedophiles and their powerful friends. And now they're trying to bury all that information.
Trump is in the UK, or as he has to be reminded not to call it, the UCK. Paddington Unbearable is in England for an official visit with the royal family. Wait till he finds out tea time has nothing to do with golf. He's going to be very upset. The royals are expected to greet the president and first lady tomorrow, but some clever Brits are already rolling out, I wouldn't call it a red carpet exactly, but rather a King Kong-sized photo of Trump with his buddy.
And social media absolutely exploded. People were commenting on every photo asking if that's her husband or her grandfather. Even Fox News got in on the action with a comedian warning, Karoline Leavitt, stay away from Bill Belichick. When Fox News is making fun of your age gap, you know it's extreme. But there's where the story takes an even darker turn. This wasn't Trump's first creepy comment about women in government that week.
House Press Secretary apparently inadvertently admitted that Tom Homan was in a meeting with undercover FBI agents. She made that admission yesterday when she got carried away in saying something that no one else has said. She claimed Mr. Homan never took the $50,000.
So the president asked the Justice Department to close the case, and does Homan have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Homan never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Homan did absolutely nothing wrong.
At a summit in Egypt, he called Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni a beautiful young woman and asked her, "You don't mind being called beautiful, right? Because you are." This is the President of the United States treating female world leaders like contestants in his beauty pageants. The same men who bragged about walking into dressing rooms, who talked about dating his own daughter, who got caught on tape talking about grabbing women. And now he's doing it to his own staff on Air Force One, while reporters watch in horror.
No matter how bad you think your job is, it's important to remember there's someone out there who has to give Donald Trump a prostate exam. For some, literally. For others, just figuratively.
How about we go to Marco? You can talk a little bit about what's going on, and
well,
go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. President. I don't know one day perhaps the entire story will be told about the events of yesterday, but suffice it to say, it's not an exaggeration that none of it would have been possible without the President of the United States being involved.
Do you have any idea how difficult it is to give the president a prostate exam with Marco Rubio poking his nose up there all the time?
Meanwhile, Karoline Leavitt was busy embarrassing herself in ways that would make Sean Spicer blush. Remember Sean Spicer, Trump's first press secretary who lied about inauguration crowd sizes and became a national laughingstock? Well, Jimmy Kimmel discovered that Leavitt might actually be worse. During her very first press briefing, Leavitt made an absolutely insane claim. She said Trump had deployed the U.S. military to California to turn on the water during the wildfire crisis.
Answer this. I didn't realize she'd be in the room, but she's on my list. Karoline Leavitt.
She's become a star. It's that face, it's that brain, it's those lips, the way they move like she's a machine gun. Is she in the room?
She's in the room.
She's a star, and she's great. She's a great person, actually, but she's, I don't think anybody has ever had a better press secretary than Karoline. She's been amazing.
She stood at that podium with a straight face and said it was all thanks to the pressure campaign Trump put on state and local officials there who clearly lack all common sense. Kimmel's response was brutal. This might be worse than when Trump made Sean Spicer say he had the biggest inauguration crowd in history. Whether or not the U.S. military entered California and turned the water on is not a matter of debate. This is not liberal versus conservative. It didn't happen. Okay, let that sink in. The White House press secretary was claiming the military conducted an operation that never existed.
Who would have been faking Donald Trump's signature in a private birthday book in January of 2003? The Apprentice wasn't even on the air yet. This would require an extraordinary amount of planning. Karoline Leavitt, his press secretary, the woman who keeps insisting Trump didn't draw this or sign this in 2003, she was 5 years old. She was too young even for Jeffrey Epstein.
Thanks, Caroline. So two on the Holman investigation. I mean, can you just speak to, did the president ask the Justice Department to close the case, and does Holman have to return the $50,000?
Well, Mr. Holman never took the $50,000 that you're referring to, so you should get your facts straight, number one. Number two, this was another example of the weaponization of the Biden Department of Justice against one of President Trump's strongest and most vocal supporters in the midst of a presidential campaign. You had FBI agents going undercover to try and entrap one of the president's top allies and supporters, someone who they knew very well would be taking a government position months later. Mr. Holman did absolutely nothing wrong. And even the president's Department of Justice, even Kash Patel's FBI, looked into this just to make sure. They had a number of different prosecutors and FBI agents who looked into this. They found zero evidence of illegal activity or criminal wrongdoing in the White House, and the president stand by Tom Homan 100% because he did absolutely nothing wrong, and he is a brave public servant who has done a phenomenal job in helping the president shut down the border.
There was no military deployment. There was no water to turn on. It was a complete fabrication. And she delivered it like it was fact. At least when Spicer lied, you could see the pain in his eyes. Leavitt seems to enjoy it. But wait, it gets even more ridiculous. Leavitt announced that the White House would start giving press credentials to independent journalists, podcasters, social media influencers, and content creators. Kimmel immediately saw through this nonsense. They're about to open the White House to prod-rump influencers and content creators. I'll take one question from F. Jerry and two from the Rizzler. Okay.
Speaking of Vladimir Putin, Trump held a virtual meeting with leaders from the EU today to talk about that war in Ukraine. He said he would end in 24 hours. This is his thing now. He wants a Nobel Prize, is what he's fixated on, so he's constantly blabbing about all the wars he's stopped.
We stopped 3 wars, go to Africa. They like to say, oh, you know, I love black people.
That's true. Did you know he ended the Infinity War in Wakanda?
Imagine that instead of real journalists asking tough questions about policy and accountability, the White House press room will be filled with TikTokers and Instagram influencers who worship Trump. It's not journalism. It's state-sponsored propaganda with a social media filter. And Kimmel didn't stop there. He kept digging into Leavitt's bizarre marriage situation. Her husband is literally closer in age to her parents than to her. When she appeared on Megyn Kelly's show, he tried to explain there.
And they want to stop it. This is clearly an abuse of power to punish the city. And New York City infrastructure projects are not supposed to be delayed because Trump wants to strong-arm Democrats into cutting health care. They're supposed to be delayed because they're New York City infrastructure projects. I don't know, maybe they want to... There is a theory that says they want to stop construction on the tunnels so they can bury the Epstein file.
Very atypical love story, saying she met him during her congressional campaign at a restaurant he owned. She gushed about how supportive he was, saying, he's the best dad I could ever ask for, except she meant to say he's the best dad for their son. That Freudian slip didn't go unnoticed. Even more telling, when an influencer toured her office, they found a framed photo of her with Trump prominently displayed. No photo of her actual husband in sight. The Trump supporters were so triggered by Kimmel's devastating roasts that they started creating fake videos claiming Leavitt destroyed him on his show. Videos with titles like Karoline Leavitt kicked off Jimmy Kimmel's show after fiery confrontation.
Karoline Leavitt, who's sick, she's out of control. And I'm not sure whether she's just demented, ignorant, a stone cold liar, or all of the above. But the notion that an official White House spokesperson would say that the Democratic Party consists of terrorists, violent criminals, and undocumented immigrants. This makes no sense. That this is what the American people are getting from the Trump administration in the middle of a shutdown. So their actions continue to speak for themselves, which is why they're on the wrong side of public sentiment.
Question on the second.
Thanks. Yeah.
Racked up hundreds of thousands of views. One problem, it never happened. Leavitt has never appeared on Jimmy Kimmel Live. There's no footage, no guest list appearance, nothing. Even Trump's own deputy press secretary had to admit it was fake news. They were so desperate to counter Kimmel's roasts that they literally invented a confrontation that never occurred. Think about how pathetic that is. They can't actually defend Trump's creepy behavior or Leavitt's lies.
Trump announced the suit this morning. He wrote, "Today I have the great honor of bringing a $15 billion defamation and libel lawsuit against the New York Times, one of the worst and most degenerate newspapers in the history of our country. The Times has engaged in a decades-long method of lying about your favorite president, me, my family business, the America First movement, MAGA, and our nation as a whole. The New York Times has been allowed to freely lie, smear, and defame me for far too long, and he's already figured out where to get the money. Trump today became the first president to sue the New York Times. He's suing the New York Times for $15 billion for defamation. $15 billion. Where does he even come up? These are like numbers my children make up when they're talking about money. I thought he said the New York Times was failing. He thinks they have $15 billion?
So they create fantasy scenarios where she wins arguments that never happened. It's like writing fanfiction where you're the hero, except these people are running our government. The pattern here is impossible to ignore. Trump surrounds himself with people who mirror his own twisted relationships and values. He hires women based on their appearance and their willingness to lie for him. He makes sexual comments about them in professional settings. And when comedians like Jimmy Kimmel expose this behavior, his supporters create alternate realities where they're the winners.
That sign, which, by the way, really put Kinko's to the test, is especially timely because this trip he's taking was planned by the UK ambassador to Washington, a guy named Peter Mandelson, who was fired last week when they found out he wrote one of the letters in the Jeffrey Epstein birthday book, which means Pete will not be there for the visit he planned, which is too bad. He and Trump would have had a lot of gross things to talk about, I'm sure.
Remember, this is the same administration that gave us alternative facts. The same people who claimed Trump's inauguration was the biggest ever when photos clearly showed it wasn't. The same crowd that insisted Trump won an election he lost by 7 million votes. Now they're claiming the military turned on water that was never off and creating fake videos of confrontations that never happened. Jimmy Kimmel has become their biggest nightmare because he does something they can't handle. He tells the truth and makes people laugh while doing it.
Every time he speaks now, he says this. He says, no one has ended more wars, and no one has ever worked harder for peace than Nelson Mandela.
I've stopped 5 wars in the last 6 months. I've ended 6 wars, and I thought this maybe would be the easiest one. What we've done, including stopping 7 wars. I've stopped 7 wars.
I've solved 7 wars.
I settled 7 wars. I ended 7 wars. I stopped 7 wars. I stopped 7 wars. I stopped 7 wars. 7 wars.
When Trump says something creepy, Kimmel doesn't normalize it or both sides it. He calls it creepy. When Leavitt tells obvious lies, he doesn't pretend there's debate. He says, this didn't happen. That's why they hate him so much. That's why they create fake videos. That's why they attack him.